Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated legacy action. Today we're hitting big, we're hitting hard, we are playing Gruul Initiative. Now normally the initiative decks we tend to see are the mono red ones with Cavern of Souls Adventure and just general red prison stuff, or the mono white ones with Seasoned Dungeoneer. However, lately a few lists like this have been cropping up, doing well in like leagues, and I think there was one or two challenges that featured some of these in like top 16 or whatever. So I thought it was time to have a little play on this one and see how it feels. So we're doing things that you would expect us to be doing. So we've got a bunch of fast mana in Spirit Guides and Chrome Mox. We've got a nice selection of 3-drops because we have all of these soul lands. So any soul land plus a bit of fast mana gives us a 3-drop on turn 1. So we have Magus of the Moon to shut down mana. Very good against the Eldrazi's of the world. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, just a great value card that allows us to find big haymakers. And this can sort of snowball the game later on. And Broadside Bombardiers, which is a phenomenal board control tool. And we can just get that going too. Then we have a lot of 4-drops here, which is what you don't necessarily see in the red decks as much. But the fact is we're trying to index into having lots of initiative stuff. So we've got 4 Caves of Chaos Adventurer and 4 Undermountain Adventurer. So that's like a big whack of 8 initiative creatures. And we've also got a couple of Minsc and Boo, which can just snowball the game out of control and win it. We've got ourselves a full playset of Fury as well, which can allow us to destroy the creatures that might take back the initiative from us, which is not something we want to happen. And we've got Once Upon a Time to smooth out our opening hands. And that's pretty much it. So we're trying to ramp out stuff that our opponents can't deal with and then just take over the game that way and make the games quite short, and our opponents will die with cards in hand, unable to deploy their resources whilst we're punching them in the face with some giant yachts. Now, we do have access to Cavern of Souls here, which we can put on Human, which will make our Caves of Chaos Adventure uncountable. We also have Giant Warrior, which is another creature type. We have Goblin Pirate, and we have Human Wizard. So not a lot of overlapping creature types, but quite often we only need to resolve like one big thing and then we get to roll. So the Cavern of Souls should be okay for that. But I do sometimes worry about the mana base of these because it's effectively a 3-color deck with this amount of colorless mana, and you know the third color is colorless. But we'll see how we fare. Sideboard wise, we've got some other tools like Trinisphere to shut decks down so they just never get to play. Some Pyroblast to deal with Psychic Frog and all sorts of blue spells. An Emrakul to stop us getting windmilled by Painter. Some Graveyard hate, and then some Artifacts and Enchantment hate. Now, there is a slight problem with this deck from where I'm sat, and that is we are a little bit cold to a Vexing Bauble if our opponent's like on the play, because it's going to shut down our Chrome Moxes, it's going to shut down our Furies, which is one of our main ball control tools. It's not going to shut down at Once Upon a Time because we cast in response. But there's definitely some things that get shut down, and normally you wouldn't be surprised to see something like a Vexing Bauble in one of these sort of red decks. But now that we're playing a red-green deck, we're on a slightly different axis here. So that's just something to keep an eye out for. But other than that, I think we're ready to jam. So remember to like and subscribe. If you want to see my videos early for just £1 a month, you can become a YouTube member and do exactly that. All right, plug over and done with. Let's jam some monsters into play early doors. Our opening hand makes a turn 1 Undermountain Adventurer. That seems like the sort of thing we want to be doing. So I will keep this hand. So we have Ancient Tomb, Chrome Mox, imprint the Fury probably, and hope that our opponent doesn't counterspell our turn 1 play. All right, we're in. So we've got Taiga here. We already have a red source here. Do we want to get a forest or do we want to get another mountain? I think we just want to get a mountain here. We already have our 1 green source if we need to be doing that. Undermountain Adventurer is a green source itself. It's got vigilance and it taps for mana. We're going to see a Swords to Plowshares here. No, we're going to see some sort of ponder, I suspect. There it is. Good old-fashioned ponder. All right, let's just try and get our opponent dead here. All right, I don't have a Solitude because you fire it off in response there. Okay. We can play this on Goblin. So this is 7. Next time we hit them for 5 and then another 7. I don't believe we need to throw the Chrome Mox here. A Brainstorm. Not sure what the Brainstorm can come up with here. A Swords to Plowshares will help. Okay, so we've seen Ponder, Brainstorm, Flooded Strand. Not the most amount of information to work with. I suspect we're looking at a deck with white removal spells. Because if they were black, they could still run Flooded Strand, wouldn't they? But you're more likely to see the Polluted Delta, statistically speaking. So, things we might want to have access to. Trinispheres and Pyroblasts. How good do we think the Magus of the Moon is going to be? Our opponents showed us a basic early doors, so my initial impression is maybe there's some sort of blue-white style control deck. I think we can probably get rid of these Maguses and smash in these Trinispheres, which become must counter, and then let all of our other things go. Now, Trinisphere has a little bit of anti-synergy with a Fury, but I think that's fine. On the play, we can bring back some Magus of the Moons if we think that's going to be worth doing. Do I want to try and play these Pyroblasts? I don't know if our opponent's going to have blue things we want to destroy is the thing. And holding this up to force through something through a counter isn't necessarily as good. No, I think we'll leave these out and just keep a high threat density, and every single thing we play needs to be answered. Like, at the end of the day, Trinisphere is going to be good against a lot of decks anyway. What does this hand do? A turn 2 Broadside Bombardiers. Is that good? Like, it's not terrible, but it's not the most impressive thing. I think we can do a little bit better than this. Play something big on turn 1. A turn 2 Fable the Mirror Breaker to me is a lot more exciting than a turn 2 Broadside Bombardiers with nothing else. So I will keep this, and we're going to get rid of one of the Caverns. This way, if we draw the right thing, we might be able to play a turn 1 Fable instead. We're going to see a Ponder from our opponent, perhaps. No Fear of the Blood Moon. This might mean our opponent has a land light hand, and they need to make sure they have access to their colours and can't afford to play around a Blood Moon. Or they might just think we're going to board out the Blood Moon. A Trinisphere, you say? That is a turn 1 play that I would like to give a whirl to. Alright, we're just in. So our opponent's very unlikely to play anything next turn. Ooh, Wasteland. Was not expecting that. So we might be looking at something more like a Dreadnought deck here. That's a bit of a savage one for us. That sets us back quite a bunch. So I think this has to be on Goblin, just so we have a chance of playing the Bombardiers. Our opponent might have some counter magic they can play on 3 if they just hold up counter spells next turn. 3 mana Ponder. We really need to find a land. If we find the land, I think we play the Fable because our Bombardiers will be uncounterable anyway later on. And the Fable allows us to snowball into some other stuff. This will do. We get ourselves a friend and we pass it over. Our opponent's one spell is going to be a Teferi, which might bounce our Trinisphere to unlock a second spell. They're bouncing our Shaman token. That is interesting. I guess it makes sense because they saw us miss a land drop last turn, and that gives us a treasure. Alright, what are we going to shift away here? Yes, I'd very much like to get rid of this Fury. We need to find a land. If we find any land, we're probably playing... Are we playing the Bombardiers? Or are we playing... I'm just trying to work out if we want this Undermountain Adventurer or not. The initiative is going to be very good against our opponent's deck. I would quite like to get Teferi off the board. I think this means the Fable goes here. Oh, we didn't hit a land. That is brutal. We had to cycle 2 cards to try and hit a land because we need some more mana to play the game. So they're going to get a Surveil land or something like Thundering Falls, I imagine, here. We're going to get a bit more information about what our opponent's working with. Meticulous Archive. Okay, I was 1 away. They put a card on top. That doesn't bode amazingly well for us. Oh dear, oh dear. They're taking out the Taiga here, right? No, they're taking out the... Okay, that means they're going to hold up for a counter spell. Nope, okay. I think you take out the Taiga there because it helps us cast more spells in our deck. Depending on our Fable. Okay. Soul land off the top would be handy for sure. Oh dear, oh dear. This is the problem of Trinisphere sometimes. I was not expecting to find Wastelands out of our opponent's deck, to be fair. Oh dear, oh dear. Rest in pieces, our deck. Now, our opponent has to have a win condition at some point. So I guess we're still in this game if we can keep making land drops. But I'm not having a great time over here. So I might just hold up like a Force and then Fourth Lingus or something. This feels like a... Oh, a Comet Stellar Pup. Sure, that's a win condition. What do they get? They rolled a 5. What does that do? Ah, that domes us for a bunch. Sure. Yikes. Alright, I think we're probably done with this one. They've got a Teferi locked and loaded. They've got Comet Stellar Pup. That might just not do a great amount, but it could just win the game instantly. What do they roll? They rolled a 4. What does that do? Does that return a card? What does 4 do on this one? Okay, they just domed us for 3. 3 mana Brainstorm. But the joke is here, we still have a chance. So our opponent's deck is not very good at winning the game, so we do have to stay in this. Their deck is designed to not lose the game. Okay, I think we'll get rid of this Trinisphere. But we've got a piece of mana at least. Alright, Timeless Dragon, that is a win condition. I will say that's enough. Because this is not the best content when you're just watching us do nothing over there. So, how do I feel about the things our opponent has shown us? I think Trinisphere on 1 still looks pretty good. But is Magus on 1 better? I think Magus on 1 might be better. Because of the wastelands our opponent has. It can be a bit awkward if we can just shut down their mana entirely straight up. Because putting all the resources into Trinisphere that then gets wastelands being flung at you can be, as you saw, a bit disappointing. We could bring in something like Pyroblast and blow up a Teferi, but I don't think that's worth it for the most part. The Fury can blow up Planeswalkers if needed, as well as be a threat. So we just got high threat density. Every spell has to be answered or can run away with the game. And hopefully that'll be enough. Okay, this is a pretty good opener. City of Traitors, not the ideal land to be leading off on, but if it allows us to make a really sweet turn 1 play, then I'll take it. So let's get our free spell off. I'll take this Taiga, I guess. Go for a City of Traitors, a Chrome Mox. I think we pitch the Fury here rather than the Bombardiers. Right, do we get a 2 for 1 out of this or not? Let's find out. The secret is you always get a 2 for 1 with this, because if they Force of Will on turn 1, that's 2 cards. If it gets to stay, then you have 2 permanents. I don't play standard, but I can't imagine what they were thinking with making this a standard card. It's pretty bananas. But great for Legacy, though. It's a good Legacy power level card, not too powerful, just a nice solid engine. One thing we have to watch out for our opponent this game is the Wrath of the Skies, the Energy Pernicious Deeds style card. I say yes. We don't need this land. We're about to fetch another land. Do I want a Broadside Bombardiers? I think so. A Chrome Mox. We want to play this Cavern, though, so that we can get an uncounterable giant warrior. I guess we name warrior. I can't remember if there's any other warriors in our deck. I don't believe there is, but it doesn't hurt. So we don't really need any green mana, so I'll just get another mountain here. The Chrome Mox we have in hand can just be thrown by a Broadside Bombardiers, so that's not a problem. Our opponent should hopefully struggle to... Alright, this feels like they're going to kill our guy here. I think I'm going to Lost Well. It's a very telegraph removal spell here. I don't think we need these things just yet. A Magus of the Moon. I'll play a mountain. I'll play the Magus. They might be incentivized to remove this. Alright, I think we're going to just attack with the Undermountain Adventurer and see if they burn any removal or anything like that, or maybe fetch to make our Magus of the Moon stronger. They can't Supreme Verdict next turn. They could flip a Lucky Terminus next turn, or they could set one up at end step. Certainly a possibility. But they have to get rid of this Magus of the Moon as well, so we're at least going to trade some resources for the Magus. So we won't be able to Terminus with... Okay. They're going to brainstorm a response and set up a Terminus here? No. Just good old-fashioned days. I will pay using the Undermountain Adventurer's secret line of text. Interesting they went for that. Maybe they didn't see it. Maybe they've got a plan. They want to fill up their graveyard for a Murktide or something. Alright, nope. They're just done. Okay. It was just an act of desperation to try and get something here and hope that we missed our own thing. That's fair enough. Alright, we're on the board. Let's see how we go in round 2. This is not the quickest hand, but we got some good turn 2 plays. We don't get Wastelanded. We might get something tasty off of the Once Upon a Time. I'll keep this. Opponent down to 5 cards. We're just going to get womboed. It's possible. Chancellor of the Annex. Okay, so our opponent's probably on a Necro Dominance deck, which means we play this out. We crack this for Taiga, I believe. We cast this. We pay the tax and make our opponent think about some things. What are we doing here? Next turn, we want to make the biggest, scariest thing we can make, which is probably taking this Simian Spirit Guide to do so. And just hope our opponent doesn't have it. Right, they didn't have it. It's good news for me. Play a massive creature. Mountain. And pass it over. We just need to punch our opponent in the face as much as possible. As quickly as possible. And hope that they are just trying to draw up to something that lets them go. Alright, Forge. Let's make it large. Big angry lady here. We will attack first in case something relevant happens. I don't want to cast that. So we can cast whatever this spell is if we complete a dungeon for free, but we can still cast it even if we haven't. We can't exile this for mana though. So 1, 2, 3. Play this out. So by playing this one out, we accelerate to trap, which means our opponent has 8 life to work with for the purposes of any sort of Necro Dominance they do, which should be not enough to go off. I'm assuming Necro Dominance because we saw the Chancellor of the Annex. They're going to have to go to clean up here, so we might get to see another card from their deck. Alright, now they're going here. Okay, so Manamorphose off the Elvish Spirit Guide. Dark Ritual. We're going to see Necro Dominance here. We are. But they only get to draw 7 cards. That's tough. On this channel, in recent days, we've seen Necro Dominance going off with 19 cards and failing. 7 is a lot to ask for. Yep. Okay, we're ahead. So, we have got some useful cards in this matchup. Trinisphere and Force of Vigor being the main ones. Pyroblast, we can Pyroblast Born Upon a Wind, but once they've drawn like 19 cards, they're going to have like a a Pact of Negation, sorry, and that's just not going to work for us. So, we do not require Furies. They can get out of here. The Blood Moon is situationally good, but not that impressive. The Fable Mirrorbreaker is a little bit slow to do its thing. That's probably what I'm leaning off of. Like, it's similar in clock to the Magus, I guess. The Magus can stop them just having a black land into Dark Ritual. Is that more beneficial than being able to loot some cards? Possibly. Alright, we'll try it like this. I don't really think this slot matters too much because it's a 3-mana 2/2, which is not really what we're going to cast. What does this hand do? Once upon a time on turn 1. Turn 2, we maybe get to make a Minsc and Boo, but we can definitely make an Undermountain Adventurer on turn 2. Is that good enough? I don't think so against our opponent's turn 1 combo deck. I don't think this is good enough either. Force of Vigor. This is good enough. Looks a little bit ugly with some of the stuff we've got going on here, but it's fine. We'll keep this. So we'll get rid of a Spirit Guide and probably a Cavern here. Well, this can be green fixing mana if we need it, is the only thing. It's the Mountain, but the Mountain casts more of our spells, but so does Simian Spirit Guide, but that only gives us 1 spell. I think we put back the Mountain in case our opponent has a chance so that we can pay for it with the Simian Spirit Guide. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Incredible Magic the Gathering right there. A Wild Cantor. We going? Looks like we going. A Necro Dominance. Say no to this. Pay for the Pact. Oh, the Chancellor trigger. We know it's the last card in our opponent's hand. Goodbye, Necro Dominance. Our opponent has no hand. We don't have a lot going on. We have the mana, so we can make some things happen. Okay, we can cast a Trinisphere next turn, and our opponent will probably scoop to that. I don't know how they can beat Trinisphere. Kind of annoying to have this Chrome Mox here, but... human, I guess, is the thing we have the most overlap on. So, not being able to play this Chrome Mox is obviously annoying once we have the Trinisphere, but we can just pay 3 mana and play this, if that's what we want to do. A Magus of the Moon. Alright, our opponent's had enough. We've got a threat, and that's the match in the books. I'm not very impressed with this Necro Dominance deck. It's certainly irritating when it just does you on turn 1, but it is very susceptible to a lot of things. Alright, also, keeping the Simian Spirit Guide to play around Chance of the Annex. Absolute chef's kiss moment right there. Let's go to round 3. Our opening hand for round 3 is not really where I want to be. This is what, a turn 2 Fury? That could be good, but I don't think that's how we're trying to play this game. What does this hand do? A turn 1 Broadside Bombardiers or a turn 2 Caves of Chaos Adventurer. I guess sign me up for the Caves of Chaos Adventurer. What we put back here is kind of interesting because we can't cast this Fable and Mirrorbreaker, just full stop. So I think we probably have to send that one back. Now, we're going to immediately draw a land that does allow us to cast it or something, but I think I like where we're at. Obviously, Wasteland could be a bit of a sad time for us, but we just got to roll with it if it happens. Our deck has a decent chunk of mana in it, so I'm not terrified of getting Wasteland and then not having mana. Oh, wow. Okay, let's play this. We will name Human. So we go red mana, exile 3 Elvish Spirit Guides. Many eggs in this basket, but it does give us the access to a land. So I'll take this Mountain to begin with, because the Mountain casts most of our spells. We can always use this Cavern to cast the Undermountain Adventurer if that's a thing that happens. Our opponent shouldn't have that much removal for this. They could have a Fatal Push, though. That's kind of like the premier removal spell in black decks at the moment. So they could crack this, get Revolt. Alright. We're just going to go big and hope that it works. Another Caves of Chaos Adventurer. We're not playing this right now anyway, so we're just going to go to attacks and see what we get out of our opponent. Now, we're probably just going to lose to Entomb Reanimate, or Entomb Animate Dead. But we definitely got pressure right now. Simian Spirit Guide. I can't exile this from while it's over there, which is sad. We just play out this Mountain. Can't cast this, so let's pass the turn over. So we have lethal next turn, so our opponent has to do something here. I'm expecting an Entomb right now. An Orcish Bowmasters. Alright, so they're going to take back the initiative as their plan. Sure. We have a big trampoline friend. And we can make an uncounterable Broadside Bombardiers. So even without the trap, we have lethal damage if our opponent doesn't remove our guys. The Orcish Bowmaster shows us that our opponent is probably on the sort of fair, Dimir, mid-range / tempo style deck. With like Psychic Frog and Tamiyo and that sort of thing. Rather than Entomb Reanimate stuff. Which is good for us. Now, maybe they're running 1 or 2 Orcish Bowmasters in their slot for the... in their spare slot for the reanimation deck. But they're more likely than not going to be playing sort of the tempo-y build. Right, let's play this on Goblin. How do you like them apples, opponent? These sorts of tempo matchups are traditionally very bad for initiative decks, because what they do is they make an Orcish Bowmaster, they kill your guy, and then they win with the initiative. So cracking this now is to get Revolt for this Fatal Push to kill our Caves of Chaos Adventurer. And they do that before we attack, so we can't throw it with our Broadside Bombardiers. Here it comes. Right, so we get the initiative here. Trap our opponent. If we can find a land next turn and get to attack with our Bombardiers, that should be good enough. Psychic Frog. They leave 2 creatures back. They can block our Bombardiers. Yep, they're going for that. So they're going to take the initiative back. They're going to... I don't know if they're going to Lost Well or Forge here. Depends what they have in hand. So they could just make a bigger creature so they can more happily absorb it. Right, yeah, so they're making a bigger creature. They're growing the army, so they're diversifying their threats a little bit here. Find a land, and we are cooking. We did not find a land, so if we attack here, they double block, and then we're not really getting anywhere. But if we draw a land next turn, we still get to win. But we're going to take 5 this turn. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. That might force us to block with the Bombardiers. Not ideal. Oh, they've gone to Arena. Okay, that is excellent for us. Because we're probably losing this game if we brick on land next turn anyway. So they've goaded our creature, which means it has to attack. Wasteland. Please don't wasteland me, opponent. I'm not a fan of letting a Psychic Frog connect, but we don't have a better option here. We need our opponent to not wasteland. Magus of the Moon, you say. This is a human. If we can attack with the Bombardiers and throw the Magus, that will be lethal. Wastelanding our Cavern. Do you have a removal spell? Is that just turning on Revolt? It is. It's tough. It's real tough here. We forced them to burn a removal spell on the Bombardiers. Oh, they got one for the Magus as well. Yeah, I don't think we'll come back from that. Okay, so what looks good here? I think Pyroblast definitely have some play to them. Psychic Frog, Tamiyo, potentially a Murktide Region. These are things I would like to remove. Fury is one of those cards where it's fine, but not always the most impressive thing. So I think we just swap these out here. Maybe we're supposed to board out some of these initiative guides because they're so bad versus our opponent's deck. But we kind of need that sort of ability. I guess we could trim. Like, does this have reach? No, it's Vigilance it has. They might be boarding in Hydroblasts, which means if I want to bring the Furies back in, they should probably be over Caves of Chaos Adventurers instead of Undermountain Adventurers. I think we're just going to submit like this. If we can just... Like, we were very close to getting there. We had a turn where if we draw a land, we win the game. Not a terrible spot to be in. Okay. Turn to uncounterable Undermountain Adventurer. Alright, I can live with that. Now, if they wasteland us off the Ancient Tomb, that's going to be bad news for us. Alright. Guess we play this on Warrior. We've still got 7 soul lands in our deck. We might be able to just cast a Fable of the Mirror Breaker if we just draw like a mountain or something. We're going to see a Ponder, we're going to see a Tamiyo. It's a Tamiyo. Sure. Oh my. I think we take this opportunity to kill our opponent's Tamiyo. We can't let that start ticking up. The reason we're keeping Fable of the Mirror Breaker because it's something we might be able to cast more easily. But yeah, like a counterspell plus wasteland sort of thing against what we're doing is absolutely savage. Okay, so Fury does not kill a Psychic Frog for some reason. Okay, so we play this one out. I think we have to imprint the Fury. Like I said, it doesn't actually work against a Psychic Frog here. So I think we're much better against the graveyard style blue-black deck than we are against the fair tempo deck, because fair tempo decks are just horrible for what we're trying to accomplish. Yeah, I don't think we'll come back from here. They've got a full grip of cards. They're about to draw some stuff. I think we can just say goodbye here. Yeah, that matchup feels horrible, but like Grixis Delver type stuff, and this is kind of the latest version of Delver's, a non-Delver deck basically, but it's blue-black tempo. There's probably like Nethergoyf, Tamiyo, Psychic Frog, maybe some Murktides and Borrowers, and then just like good tempo spells, you know, your cantrips, your forces, your dazes, your wastelands, and it's just too much for us to overcome like this. All right, let's go to round 4. A turn 1 Caves of Chaos Adventurer. We're on the play, so we get to dodge some dazes and stuff, but if our opponent has a Force of Will, we probably just lose the game. I'm not the biggest proponent of playing these sorts of decks. I think the mono-red builds where they're trying to play 3-drops is better, but when we're trying to just say, okay, we're going to throw everything at this 4-drop on turn 1, and then hopefully win the game after that. It's taking life in your hands a bit too much for my liking. But obviously what we're doing is clearly powerful. Like if this sticks, if we pass the Force of Will check, we're just golden for the most part, because this is such a powerful thing to do on turn 1. I would like to have a mountain. Okay. Are we attacking our opponent for 7 on turn 2? Let's find out. Oh, a cloud post. Okay, we got Magus of the Moons. That's going to help out a bunch here. Let's juice up our Cavern of Souls Adventurer. Make it a really scary, angry barbarian lady. Alright, our opponent's had enough. Okay, cloud post. We already have Magus of the Moon in, so that's pretty handy. Trinisphere, not great against what our opponent's doing. Force of Vigor. The main artifact they're going to have is the One Ring. We can't interact with the One Ring, so I think we're just going to resubmit here. What does this hand do? We have a dig spell which could find a Magus. We have a turn 1 Fable. So we pitch this to the Chrome Mox, have this. We do Fable. That's okay. We've got a dig spell that can maybe find us the Magus. We don't need to nail the Magus like super early doors. Our opponent's going to have Dismembers in anyway to try and answer it. Playing a Nexus. So they might be going for turn 2 Thought-Knot Seer off of an Urza's Tower. So, okay. Play out this Ancient Tomb. Let's have a look. Fury. Like, do I want any of these? Like, they're fine. I guess if we take the Spirit Guide here, we can put that underneath the Chrome Mox instead. So we play Chrome Mox here. So this gives us the ability to, once upon a time, looking for Magus next turn. Let's go to Hamster Town. Let's get the damage flowing. And if our opponent has something like a Thought-Knot Seer, we outclass it, and we don't really care about things like hand because we already have a game-winning threat in play. Our opponent didn't have anything there. Good. Our opponent probably has a Dismember here. Put the count on this, see if you want to Dismember in response. Here it comes. There it is. I think we're going to go for this Cavern of Souls Adventurer. So we get a forest, so we're better underneath our own Blood Moon. If we want to play our big guy. Although we already have the Chrome Mox, so we don't really need that. Right, I just take this mountain. We have multiple red pips in some of our spells, like Fury. So next turn we can attack with the Minsc, or the Boo token, sorry, and the Cavern of Souls Adventurer for a big bunch. So this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Or we put the counters on this, and that's still not quite good enough, is it? Or we put 2 counters on this, so it's 7, attack, and then throw it with the Minsc Boo. Alright, yep. Okay, our opponent's had enough. Our opponent doesn't have the interaction. We are obviously quite a powerful deck from what we're doing. Let's, what we that 4 rounds already. That's gone lightning fast. So we are 4 rounds in. We are 3-1. Let's see if we can put the 4-1 on the board. We're on the play for the final round, which is a great place to be, but this hand is certainly not. So let's mulligan and have another crack. Turn 2 Magus is fine. It might shut down our opponent. We'll see. But we can just throw lots and lots of Bombardiers towards our opponent until one of them wins a game. What a terrible way to play Magic the Gathering. I think I keep this on 6. I would be tempted to mulligan this on a 7 because we're not doing anything on turn 1. But our deck is slightly lower on explosive turn 1 plays because we have less 3-drops because we've got a bunch of 4-drops, which sometimes means we're doing big turn 2 plays because we need that extra land drop just to get over the hump. Let's keep this. Bin off for Bombardiers. Start with the Wooded Foothills. The classic Rugged Elvish start for those magic boomers out there. Bloodstained Mire. Not a big fan of my opponent having a Bloodstained Mire. How useful do I think a Magus of the Moon is in the face of our opponent's Bloodstained Mire? I'm not big on it. I think we want a Taiga here. I can definitely go a Rye for us. Because they can just fetch a black source here. Or whatever they need. I have a feeling our opponent is reanimating on us. And I don't know if that's going to go well game 1. But we can start attacking. If our opponent gives us a spot where the Magus of the Moon looks good to drop, then we'll take it. But I don't think just making a 2-2 when our opponent gets to find their most important basic is the way I want to play this one. And if they are a black-red deck, then they just find their swamp and they have both their colours. But they're probably a black something. Okay, a black-blue deck. Alright, so now they've fetched badly into our Magus. So we might be able to stick that on counterplay next turn and just shut off our opponent's ability to play the game. However, they have the option of ruining our day in a big way here by just Entomb, reanimate, and then we're not coming back from that. Urza's Saga. Ooh, we're going to have a great turn. Dark Ritual. What is this? Is this some sort of Saga Storm deck, perhaps? We're going to see Beseech the Mirror sacrificing Urza's Saga. We're going to see a Doomsday. Doomsday as a Saga would be a wild one. But out here in the leagues, who knows what you can see. I don't know what the current incarnations of the Riddler deck look like, but I know one did quite well at the challenge the other day. I know they play as a Saga. I don't really know if they're playing black mana though. 4 mana. Here comes the Beseech the Mirror. What are you getting? Is it Song of Creation? It is Song of Creation. Okay, we could be dead this turn. Okay, so this is one of the newer Epic Storm builds that Brian Cook's been playing on his channel, the Epic Storm. They look pretty good. It's a new innovation using the Urza Saga, which wasn't a thing they were using before, so they're kind of taking a bit of technology from Saga Storm. The Saga can go and get Vexing Bauble, and then you cast your Veil of Summer into your own Vexing Bauble, so that your spells are uncounterable, so you don't care about the zeros triggering your Vexing Bauble, and you just get to rattle off all your spells whilst not caring about counter spells. It is very potent. Now, we have good sideboard cards for this matchup. Trinisphere is quite a doozy for them. Opponent needs to keep playing some spells here. We can just F6 this turn. Our opponent knows we don't have anything at this point. We can bring in the Force of Vigors to stop Song of Creation lines specifically, and that's probably where we're going to look to try and include an Echo of Aeons. Sure. So they got 7 cards in hand, and every card they cast gives them 2 spells. Oh, sorry, 2 cards. So this should be deterministic at this point, or statistically likely. But if they've got any sort of Beseech the Mirror, I think that's what they're casting here. Alright, they're just casting a straight up Tendrils. Alright, that's fine. Okay, Trinisphere is in. Force of Vigor probably in as well. It's not ideal, but the Furies come out for the Trinispheres. That's the easy part. Because Fury's bad, Trinisphere's good. And then if we want these Force of Vigors in, what do we lose? Leyline of the Void is another option to stop them doing Gaia's Will lines. So have these sorts of things here. I guess the Fable is kind of slow. I don't want to board too many cards though. That's the issue. Like any of these will win us the game. We kind of want to lock down our opponent's 2 easiest ways of winning the game. So they also did show us the Echo. The Magus is fine. Maybe it's the Bombardiers. Let's get rid of those. You want to keep high green count for Force of Vigor. We're a little bit lower on threats here, but our opponent's not going to interact with our threats, so it doesn't matter as much. This hand doesn't really do anything. A Force of Vigor can do some work against our opponents, but we're not really doing our game plan here. I think we need to mulligan again. Now we have hands with just turn 1 Trinisphere, and that's just lights out. So I think we need to keep in mind that we have some very powerful... turn 2 Magus is probably not good enough. Let's keep going. Where are my Trinispheres? Okay. This one is fine. It's not good, but it's fine. So we get rid of this. No, we can't get rid of this if we want to save our Force of Vigor. So we get rid of the Caves, Chaos Adventurer, Spirit Guide, and is it the Mountain or is it the City of Traitors? We don't really want to just play out the City of Traitors. Ugh. This is an incredibly defensive hand and it may or may not work. But our opponent can't do their 2 best lines to win the game. We've shut those off. Now they could just go like Ritual, 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 you know, Beseech Chains and win the game that way. A Chrome Mox. We could nail both of these permanents right now. I don't think I'm going to. There is a Mox Opal. There is a Lion's Eye Diamond. A Galvanic Relay. Yeah, just a little bit of card advantage there for our opponent. We got a Lotus Petal, a Thoughtseize, Commercial District, and another Relay. Been pretty good. I think we're just going to be cooked here. Yeah, that's not good, is it? In our opponent's upkeep, I think we have to blow this away now. So we take out this Saga, that's a given. If we take out the Chrome Mox, they'll still have the ability to Galvanic Relay. So that means we're probably supposed to take out the Lion's Eye Diamond because it's the intrinsically most powerful thing they have here. Ugh, doesn't feel good. We give them an additional Storm for their Relay as well. But we know they can Thoughtseize us and take away our card. We may as well stop them getting anything out of their Saga or having the backup beatdown plan. We just are completely outclassed here. We had a number of draws that just immediately win us the game. Like for our openers. Maybe we're supposed to go to 3, but that requires like Spirit Guide, Trinisphere plus Soul Land. But maybe we are supposed to mull to 3 on that one instead of having the 2 bits of interaction we had. This stops our opponent's easiest line by having the Leyline. But maybe our opponent knows that we're boarding in Leylines and they've gone into relays instead of echo lines. They probably still have one guy as well though. A Burning Wish from our opponent. Getting another Galvanic Relay. Oh no, sorry. The Galvanic Relay was already in exile actually, wasn't it? So it didn't actually have a Galvanic Relay in hand. I just misread how this was laid out. They can do some stuff next turn. And we can do nothing on our turn most likely. Yep. Not great. This is where not having more prison-y style pieces like the Chalice or the Vexing Bauble is really come back to bite us. Our opponent might have the Veil of Summer still in their deck. Beseech the Mirror, this is going to be the Song of Creation. Yep. Alright, we looked at 28 cards with our mulligans to try and find a turn 1 Trinisphere, and we couldn't find it. Sometimes that's going to happen, and now we're getting absolutely cooked alive over here. The chance our opponent fizzles here is minuscule. Alright, our opponent's played a bunch of spells now, and then they've thought seize us to make sure the coast is clear so they can just win the game without having to worry about something like a Mind Break trap. And now they're just going to put a Beseech the Mirror or a Tendrils on the stack. Yep, so this will go and find them the Tendrils. If they draw it, they're probably still fine too. Yep, we got cooked pretty hard there, and we finished with a 3-2 record in relatively quick time though. Let's have a little chat about this deck. So, when our opponents couldn't really interact with what we were doing, we were absolutely smashing it. But when we were the ones who had to interact, like in that last match, we don't have that many tools to do it. Our deck is not about that. We're supposed to be the ones saying, you need to solve what we're doing, otherwise you lose. Now, when our opponent is faster than us and gets to do that sort of thing right back at us, that is a problem. Because if we can't find this, like, Trinisphere, which is, you know, the only real disruption we have for them, then we're going to be ruined. And that's exactly what happened against Storm. We mulliganed to 4. We kept a hand that had some interaction, but it just wasn't enough. Storm deck is just going to roll over us. The other matchup we lost was the blue-black matchup, where we just, you know, tempo matchups are going to be horrible when you're playing the initiative, because they're just going to make guys, then they're going to kill your guy, they're going to get the initiative, and then you're going to be playing from behind due to your own mechanic. And that is just the nature of things. Now, I think we are better against the blue-black Reanimator builds, because we have the Leyline of the Void in the sideboard, and they don't have as much access to creatures that can beat us down early doors, like the Orcish Bowmasters or the Nethergoyth or whatever. So I think that is another consideration too. How do I feel about this deck compared to, let's say, the mono-red? That's the most obvious comparison. The mono-red build, its curve is absolutely jam-packed at 3s. But that means you have way more keepable hands, because you're almost certainly going to be able to play something on turn 1, because you're going to have some fast mana, and you're going to have a soul land a lot of the time, and you play something cool on 1. And sometimes that'll be like a Rabble Master or whatever, and that's fine. And you have less initiative creatures, because you only get to play the Cavern of Adventurer, which means the Undermountain Adventurer is out of there, which means your mana base is obviously more solid for casting your own spells, as well as being not as vulnerable to people just stealing the initiative and wrecking your day. So I will say I prefer mono red as a deck. I think it is stronger. It runs more moons in its 75 as well. You don't get as awkward situations like we do with our caverns and things like that. Once Upon a Time is definitely a nice inclusion and can smooth things out for us here. But I think whilst the upside of having all these initiative creatures can be good, I think the consistency that you get out of a mono red build is just a little bit better for my money. But if you like making giant stompy creatures, this is probably the one for you. It captures a little bit of the feeling of when Mono White Initiative was like one of the best decks in Legacy, and people are like, oh no, here comes this sort of stuff. Now, yes, we don't have a 3-drop initiative creature, but you know, we've got a nice smattering of these initiative creatures, so it's going to be a big part of most of our game plans, which, in my opinion, isn't where you want to be, but if that's your jam, by all means, go for it. And as you saw, when you beat people down with this and you're winning, you absolutely smash people down, right? It's not even close a lot of the games you're winning. A few where you could maybe get there, like we lost to the blue-black deck, but we had a turn where if we draw a land, we might be able to win the game. Now, we don't know if our opponent had the stuff right there and then. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But there was certainly a possibility that we could have won that game if things broke slightly differently. But we did a really good job today, I think, of showcasing this deck, because we showed the highs, like against that Cloudpost deck, that was savage. We showed the lows against, you know, the Storm deck, mulligan in because we have so little interaction and it's not good enough, as well as, you know, getting wastelanded underneath our own Trinisphere, that sort of jam. So we definitely highlighted and showcased what this deck can do, and sometimes what people can do against it. Alright, I think we are done for today, so thank you so much for joining me on this lightning fast one today. It was a quick smash in, one way or the other in every round. And if you enjoyed this, please remember to like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out, and it doesn't cost you anything, so why not do that? And if you know anyone who's interested in Legacy, obviously send them my way. I love making Legacy content because I adore the format with a great passion, and I hope you do too. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.